Welcome to Grand Prix, your go-to channel for the fastest updates in Formula One. We've got 3 hot stories for you, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the pack. Let's get started. The preseason comes to an end. 3 days have passed in the blink of an eye, and we have already reached the final session of Formula One's 2025 preseason testing. It feels like we barely had enough time to fully enjoy the sight of the cars back on track. But before the teams turn their focus to the first race of the year, let's make the most of this last opportunity to analyze everything that has unfolded so far. Together, we'll break down the key moments, assess who looks strong, who has underperformed, and who might just be the surprise contender for this season. Before diving into all the details, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This way, you'll stay informed daily with top-quality Formula One content. Also, if you enjoy these updates, don't forget to leave a like on this video. It helps support our work and allows us to keep bringing you insightful coverage. I also want to take a moment to express my gratitude for the incredible support and engagement from all of you at the start of this season. Whether you've been watching our videos, sharing your thoughts in the comments, or providing suggestions, your enthusiasm fuels our passion for this sport. We have an amazing community here, and together, we're going to experience an unforgettable 2025 season. Now, let's break down everything that happened during the afternoon session of the third and final day of testing in Bahrain. This session featured a compelling lineup of drivers, including Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, George Russell, and Lance Stroll, who took over from Fernando Alonso after the Spaniard felt unwell in the morning. Also on track were Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, and Nico Hülkenberg, making for a highly competitive final session. The morning session saw teams focusing primarily on race simulations, meaning fewer fast laps were recorded. Mercedes looked promising, displaying solid pace across different fuel loads. Meanwhile, McLaren appeared slightly off the mark, but their long-run pace suggested they might have some hidden potential. Red Bull, as expected, was heavily involved in testing various new components, including a redesigned front wing and an updated engine cover. Anticipation was high for the final hours of testing, where teams were expected to push their cars to the absolute limit, simulating both race conditions and qualifying scenarios. Strange incidents and early lap times. The final session began with yet another red flag, adding to the list of bizarre stoppages during preseason testing. First, there was a power outage that halted running for a considerable amount of time. Then, earlier today, a broken window from a Marshall post shattered onto the track, causing another unexpected delay. Now, in an even more unusual turn of events, an unauthorized bus nearly entered the circuit, prompting the FIA to intervene and temporarily suspend the session. Once the track was cleared, Lewis Hamilton and Yuki Tsunoda were among the first drivers to return to action. Lap times started coming in, with Pierre Gasly setting an early benchmark, taking the lead in the afternoon standings. George Russell slotted into third, while Hamilton remained further down the order in P13. However, it was clear that most drivers were still focusing on gathering data rather than chasing outright speed. A few moments later, Gasly, running on C3 tires, improved his time significantly, jumping to the top of the overall timesheets. His lap was nearly 4/10 quicker than Charles Leclerc's best time from the morning, reinforcing the notion that Alpine had made noticeable progress. While they are not expected to challenge the top teams, their early form suggests they could be more competitive in the midfield battle this year. Meanwhile, Red Bull's garage remained closed and heavily shielded, preventing rival teams from seeing what modifications were being made to Verstappen's RB21. Speculation suggested that significant floor updates were being tested, an area where Red Bull has traditionally held an advantage over the competition. The final push and key takeaways. As the session progressed, lap times began to drop. George Russell surged to P1, followed closely by Gasly and Leclerc. Over at Red Bull, mechanics were still fine-tuning Verstappen's car, delaying his track time further. At Aston Martin, Stroll was visibly struggling with handling issues. His car displayed excessive understeer, rapidly wearing out the front tires. This was concerning, especially considering how Fernando Alonso had already faced similar difficulties earlier in the day. Finally, with less than 2 hours remaining, Verstappen made his way onto the track. However, Things did not go smoothly for the reigning world champion. His first few laps were riddled with errors, including multiple lockups, an off-track excursion, and a lack of stability in high-speed corners. It became evident that Red Bull still had work to do in refining their new setup. Meanwhile, Alex Albon put together an impressive long-run stint, completing 20 laps at a consistent pace of 1 minute and 36.6 seconds. This was an encouraging sign for Williams, as it suggested they might have improved their race pace, a weakness that plagued them last season. As the session neared its conclusion, Verstappen finally found some rhythm and jumped to P1, edging out Gasly by 0.2. However, his time at the top was short-lived as Albon stunned the paddock with a blistering lap, pushing Williams into the lead. This raised eyebrows, as it hinted that Williams may have built a much stronger package for one-lap performance. In the final 30 minutes, the track became increasingly busy. George Russell reclaimed P1 with an impressive final run, while Verstappen slotted into P2 after another strong lap. Albon held on to P3, solidifying Williams' status as an unexpected force in qualifying trim. Final standings and key observations. The final classification for the last day of testing was: checkered flag P1, George Russell, Mercedes. Checkered flag P2, Max Verstappen, Red Bull. Checkered flag P3, Alex Albon, Williams. Checkered flag P4, Oscar Piastri, McLaren. Checkered flag P5, Pierre Gasly, Alpine. Checkered flag P6, Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes. Checkered flag P7, Yuki Tsunoda, RB. Checkered flag P8, Esteban Ocon, Alpine. Checkered flag P9, Charles Leclerc, Ferrari. Checkered flag P10, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes test driver. The biggest takeaways from the final session were: heavy checkmark Mercedes appears competitive in both qualifying and race pace, suggesting they may have finally found a balanced setup. Heavy checkmark Williams has emerged as a dark horse in one-lap performance, but their race pace remains uncertain. Heavy checkmark Red Bull's car is fast but unstable, with Verstappen visibly struggling with handling issues throughout the session. With preseason testing now wrapped up, all eyes turn to the Australian Grand Prix, set to take place in 2 weeks. That's when we'll finally see where each team truly stands as they battle for their first points of the season. What are your thoughts after 3 days of testing? Have your expectations changed? Which team do you think will shine in the opening race? Let me know in the comments. A big thank you to everyone for following along. See you soon for the first Grand Prix weekend of 2025.